Podcast Network Asia. FirstMetroSec is providing this podcast as a general market commentary. Reference to any specific security, product, or entity do not constitute as an offer or a solicitation of an offer to buy or sell any financial instruments or to participate in any particular trading strategy. The statements, comments, views, or opinions expressed by the hosts are subject to change without notice, and FirstMetroSec is under no obligation to update, amend, change, or correct any of the statements, comments, views, or opinions expressed. The statements, comments, views, and opinions expressed by the guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the view of FirstMetroSec. FirstMetroSec disclaims any liability arising from reliance on or reference to any information obtained in this podcast.
You are listening to First Metro Securities Philippine Stock Market Weekly podcast, where we feature timely and relevant discussions on the Philippine stock market and the economy in the hope of providing you investing and trading guidance. Here's your host.
How's it going, investors? Hi, I'm Anjz, an equity research associate from First Metro Securities. Today's podcast is a special episode regarding Philippines' exit from the FATF gray list and its impact to the market. I'm joined here today by my colleague Nicole, also an equity research associate from our research team. Hi Nicole, kamusta?
Hi, Ange, and hello to all the listeners of our podcast. I hope everyone's having a good day so far.
Yes, thank you for being here and welcome to the podcast. Ikaw yung second guest ko from the research team. Last time we had Sam to discuss about the MSCI rebalancing naman. So for this episode, we invited you here so you could provide us insights regarding this news about Philippines finally exiting the FATF gray list after almost 4 years. But I guess before we get to that news flow, siguro pa-discuss muna sa amin, ano ba yung FATF at saka ano yung FATF gray list?
Okay, so yung FATF or Financial Action Task Force, they are a global watchdog based in Paris, France. And it was founded in 1989 by the G7 to combat money laundering, and it later expanded its scope to include terrorist financing. It has 39 member countries, including major economies like US, UK, and China. So the FATF sets international standards and evaluates how well countries enforce those rules that they implement. Yung G7 is a group of the world's top economies. Kasama dito yung US, UK, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, and Japan.
All right, got it.
Now, you might have heard of the FATF Grey List. So this is where countries with weaknesses in their anti-money laundering and counterterrorism financing policies end up. So hindi siya ganun ka-severe as the blacklist, but being on it means more scrutiny from investors, higher compliance costs, and potential economic consequences.
All right, thank you for that, Nicole. I guess since may background na tayo about the FATF, pwede nating pag-usapan yung news flow na na-release to last week Friday eh. Sige, go ahead.
So you have mentioned kanina nga that the Philippines is officially off the gray list after nearly 4 years since its inclusion in June 2021. So na-add nga tayo sa list na yon nung June 2021, but recently, plenary session of the FATF confirmed that we've successfully implemented necessary reforms to be out of it. Now, just for context, the Philippines isn't part of the 39 member countries ng FATF, but it is part of the Asia-Pacific Group on Money Laundering, and that group follows the FATF standards. So this removal is a big deal. And actually, the SP Governor Remolona even called it a vote of confidence for the country.
Paano tayo natanggal dun sa list na yun? Ano yung mga measures na ginawa ng government para ma-remove yung Philippines from the list?
So to get off the gray list, the country had to address 3 major points from the 18 na standard ng FATF. And kasama dito yung tightening controls on casino junkets, strengthening anti-money laundering measures at major ports to catch false currency declarations, as well as improving the prosecution of terrorist financing cases. And a big part of this also involved clamping down on financial crimes linked to the Philippine offshore gaming operators or yung POGOs, which have been long flagged for their potential ties to money laundering and fraud. But it doesn't end there, since the FATF still wants the Philippines to refine our strategies in concern to counter terrorism financing and the like. And they want to make sure that authorities can effectively track and prosecute cases while ensuring that nonprofit organizations won't be unfairly affected. So this is a win for the country, and yung challenge now is to how the Philippines or the BSP can maintain these reforms para hindi na tayo mabalik sa grey list again.
Nicole, may nabanggit kang term kanina, yung terrorism financing. Parang medyo intimidating yung term na yun, na. Can you explain what terrorism financing encompasses? Tsaka, something like this actually happens in our country? Ganun ba yun?
I think somehow prevalent naman siya sa country natin, but not as big as yung bigger economies. And I think the concern of FATF is more on the lack of regulation sa country natin, as well as the weak enforcement of laws on the topic. And one major issue na hina-highlight ng FATF is yung prevalence ng informal money transfer sa Philippines, such as unregulated remittances. And this makes it difficult for authorities to trace illicit funds. And another thing na na-flag ng FATF is yung POGO operations na sa country natin. And they see this as a concern, as this has been linked to financial crimes that potentially fund illicit activities in the country. So those are mainly yung na-encompass ng terrorism financing sa Philippines.
I see. I guess another question for me, bakit ba nagmamatter itong FATF na 'to, yung maalis tayo sa list na yun? Does this have a significant impact on our economy?
Well, now that we're off the list, cross-border transactions should be faster and more efficient, as international banks as well as financial institutions will no longer impose extra scrutiny on Philippine-based transactions. And as a result, lower din yung compliance costs for business, since they won't have to deal with additional reporting and due diligence requirements when transacting with other countries. More importantly, this will also boost investor confidence, and this would make the country more attractive for foreign direct investments.
So more of sa compliance side siya, no? Tsaka yung foreign direct investments natin.
Yes.
Guro, another one from me, sino ba yung mga magbe-benefit the most from this event? Which type of stakeholders?
Well, this will be a win for banks mainly, then businesses and investors, based on the reasons na I have mentioned sa previous question mo. And on a smaller scale naman, entrepreneurs and SMEs will benefit from easier access to financing, as banks won't have to impose extra compliance hurdles. And then on an individual scale, OFWs and freelancers who rely on international transactions could see faster remittances and fewer delays.
Alright, so meron sa mga corporate side, meron din sa individuals or yung retail side. Siguro, paano naman to nakaka-affect sa Philippine equity market?
Yun nga, this would boost foreign investor confidence, since they may have been hesitant to invest sa stocks natin due to concerns over financial transparency and money laundering risks. But with reduced scrutiny on the financial system of our country, we could potentially see higher foreign inflows, which could improve market liquidity. And this also makes it easier for our local listed companies or just local companies to raise capital through stock or bond issuance, as international investors may now view the Philippines as a more stable and compliant market.
Okay. And since na-mention ko na rin naman yung equities, meron bang specific sectors or particular stocks affected by this?
Number one, yung banking and financial stocks, they could see improved sentiment. And property developers might also gain kasi there would be improved investor confidence, potentially driving more commercial leasing and real estate investment like sa mga BPOs. On the flip side, casino and gaming stocks may remain under scrutiny or madagdagan pa nga as the FATF previously flagged risks related to them yung sa mga junkets as well as money laundering.
Ibig sabihin ba nun, Nicole, yung casino and gaming stocks, are we expecting their prices to drop because of this news flow?
Not necessarily directly, but as you know, yung market natin very reactive sa news. So siguro kapag may lumabas na news related to regulations ng PAGCOR, there would be some slight reaction sa mga stocks but still dependent sa specific stock kasi.
Yeah, sabagay, that makes sense naman. Siguro, on to my last question na lang, no? Are there any other catalysts or key data points that we should monitor that could drive potential upside in the market?
Etong gray list news na to, big deal siya and we wait for the fruition, yung kung paano siya mag-flow sa equities market. But other reforms or data that we are looking at is yung implementation ng reduction sa stock transaction tax. That would significantly improve investability in our country. And another one of these is yung upgrade ng outlook ng S&P to the Philippines. So that is expected kung maging better na yung economic conditions ng Philippines within 12 to 24 months, yung upgrade nila from stable to positive. So those are the other key data points na we are looking at for potential upside sa market.
Basically, kailangan lang talaga natin no, na maging attractive yung Philippine market for
Yes.
foreigners or even yung natin, Filipinos to invest in the Philippine equity market. No?
Mhm.
Ayun. So, thank you for sharing all of that, Nicole. I think that concludes our episode for this podcast. And also, I believe our listeners learned a lot from you today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for inviting me, Anj, and thank you rin sa listeners natin.
All right. And that's it for today's podcast. We hope this has been helpful. If you have any topics that you want us to discuss on the pod, please feel free to message us on our socials and we'll gladly look into them. Our FB page is First Metro Securities. We also have an FB group if you want to join. That's First Metro Securities Community. We also have an IG account that's at FirstMetroSec. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Bye!
Thanks for listening to First Metro Securities Philippine Stock Market Weekly podcast. Don't forget to follow us to get first dibs on our new episodes. For more up-to-date market news and info, exclusive content, and the opportunity to connect with your fellow Filipino investors and traders, join facebook.com/groups/FirstMetroSec and be part of the FirstMetroSec family.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia, the hosts of the program, or other programs of the network. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.